Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled are architect Gulla Jonsdottier and actress, artistic director of the LA Women's Shakespeare Company, Lisa Wolpe. Architect, designer Gulla Jonsdottier was born and raised in Iceland. She graduated with a degree in architecture from SCI-Arc, the Southern California Institute of Architecture in Los Angeles, and she worked in the offices of Richard Meier and Dodd Mitchell until opening her own firm in West Hollywood. Why did you leave Iceland?
Actually, I wanted to study architecture, and they didn't teach architecture in Iceland.
Is that correct?
Yes, now they do, so.
And
but they didn't. So.
And how did you choose SCI-Arc?
Well, first I was thinking about maybe going to Europe, Berlin or Italy, but I worked in an architect's office as an assistant for a summer, and I met this woman who had graduated from the school.
Oh.
And I had never been to America, Los Angeles and palm trees, and sounded good, and I checked on this school, and I really was just sort of inspired to attend this particular school.
Was it in Santa Monica at the time?
Yes, I started in Santa Monica.
So you had a great set of teachers.
Oh yeah, at the best. Ray Cappy, Neil Denari, Gary Page, and Michele Isai, Eric Kahn, like wonderful, wonderful teachers.
So they were all, yeah, you came in at a really great time. Then they moved downtown. Was it a new building? Or did you ever work down there?
Actually, first they moved to Culver City, so I moved with that school there.
Oh, you did?
And they moved downtown, like I think the year after I left, after I graduated.
Have you ever gone back to teach or lecture?
I have not, no.
Shouldn't you do that?
I don't know, should I?
I think you should. When you got out of school, was it easy to get a job? What did you do when you got out of architecture school?
Well, I had never planned to stay in LA. It was more like going to school and then go back home.
Oh.
But after graduation, you get this wonderful opportunity to have 1 year working visa. So I figured I'm going to try that and make the most of it. And I decided to just be kind of brave and apply for 2 jobs with the most famous architects in America.
I know.
Richard Meier and Frank Gehry.
Oh, you also applied to Frank?
I did. And I actually got both jobs, but I got the Richard Meier job like 2 weeks before, and I stayed there for about 4 years.
And Richard was doing the Getty at that time.
Yes,
so he probably needed a lot of architects, right, in the office?
Yes, a lot. There were about 80 people.
No.
And
80?
It was more than the office could handle desk sizes, so some people worked in shifts, like 6 to 2 and 2 to 11.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was an amazing, amazing time.
But that was a huge project.
Yes.
And did you start with it and finish with it?
No, I came in like 3 or 4 years before it opened. I think it was a 13-year project, all in all.
I know.
From you know, when he started.
Do they have a project architect? Is that what they do? They have one person in charge of it, or was Richard Meier in charge of it?
Richard Meier was in charge, yeah.
And then how do they break down 80 architects or 40 architects? How do you break it down and give them things to do?
In this case, it was broken down by teams. There was the museum team, which I was on. And then there was the offices, the restaurant, the gardens, you know.
That's how they break it all down?
Yeah, that's how we broke it down, and a few people on each team.
And then he oversees the whole thing?
He oversees the whole thing, and his partner, Michael Palladino, as well.
That's what I thought. Michael was probably the project architect, but he wasn't, was he, or was it?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Because when I was on the Architecture Commission in Beverly Hills, Michael would present those things. Right. In fact, the Gagosian Gallery.
Yeah, I worked on that one too.
Did you? When he Michael came and presented
Yes.
it before our commission.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
You probably were with him.
Probably. My desk was actually next to Michael Palladino.
Was it?
I learned a lot just sitting next to him.
Oh, I bet. He's really a fantastic guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
What would you say? We talked about Frank Gehry, who is totally avant-garde. You would have gone with him and probably be mashing up little pieces of paper and throwing them in on the ground like Frank does. But Richard is much more conservative and has a different kind of a building, doesn't he?
Yeah, I feel like all of Richard's buildings are very peaceful. And I think part of it is because, especially the Getty is based on mathematics. It's based on a 30-inch grid. So you kind of feel the peacefulness of it. And I used to study, I was actually a mathematics and biology major before I studied architecture. So I related to Richard more, I guess.
What was his signature? What do you think his signature is? Just that?
No, it's not just that, but it's always very elegant, peaceful, and pristine.
And then, what do you think the materials have a lot to do with that?
Yes, they have a lot to do with it.
And what kind of materials does he use?
Well, in this case, it was all travertine at the Getty. I believe he started with having the building all white, but it would have cast a lot of glare over the city.
Oh, is that see, you have to think of everything, don't you?
Yeah.
Then you moved on to Dodd Mitchell, right?
Yeah.
But I look at Dodd
yeah.
as a designer, as a restaurant designer. I don't know if he's an architect, is he?
No, he was more like a set designer, and then he became a designer of restaurants. And
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
But you were going to say something about
After Richard Meyer, I took a little sidestep and I became a set designer myself for Walt Disney Imagineering.
Oh, is that where you met Dodd?
No, I was after.
Oh, it was after.
Yeah.
Well, what were you doing? Why'd you go there?
I wanted to try something different. I think I was spoiled by working on the Getty. I was like the project of the century, and now what am I going to do? Go design a small house?
I know.
I can't do that.
You can't do that.
So I figured I'll try something completely different just to see how it is. And it was fun. I spent a lot of time in Tokyo working for Disney on this theme park.
What do you do? Did you use your architecture, or did you have to use design?
There was a lot of drawings and design.
Was there?
Yeah.
And why did you decide to leave there?
Well, the project opened, and I, figured I'll do something else. And I ran into a friend who was actually an investor in some of Dodd's restaurants. And he's like, "So you're still with Disney?" I'm like, "No, actually, I just left." And he's like, "I have this guy. His name is Dodd. You guys would be a good team. I'll introduce you."
You didn't know him before?
No, but I'd been to one of his restaurants and I really liked it. I always thought it was very warm and sort of earthy.
He has a different kind of a feel. And all of a sudden I started seeing things, Dodd Mitchell designs. And that's why I said I thought it was just in restaurants. Does he design other things?
We did some hotels together. Actually, the first job that I worked on with him, we got our first hotel together.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
And so would you do the architecture or just the design work?
Both.
Interior. Oh, you do both?
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think about design versus architecture? How is that set up?
I think people get confused about it because people sometimes look at like, oh, he's an architect, and they think like he's just the one who does the construction documents.
Right.
But then you look at Richard Meyer, who's like a star architect, who's a designer and architect.
He is a designer. Well, what's the difference? What do we see? How do we
I don't know why people differentiate it like this. It's kind of interesting, but interior designer or architect, and that's different.
They're different.
Yeah.
Oh, interior designer, right.
Yeah. So.
But designer, it seems like your firm now, which is called Gulla Jonsdottier, say it for me.
I call it G+, Gulla Jonsdottier Design.
G+?
The plus is kind of meaning all the things that I want to do and the team I have behind me. But, like, I do architecture and interior design.
So you do have a team.
And furniture design, everything that I've been doing.
But also design, not furniture design too, and interior, but not so much the furniture as the design of the...
No, I actually kind of do it all. I'll
do?
light the candles before you arrive, Yeah.
What about the kitchen?
No, actually,
no. Go into the kitchen?
No.
Okay, so what I was thinking is you had different choices of areas of expertise, not so much like Richard with a heavy building.
Interior design comes very naturally to me as well, but I also want to do more architecture.
And so you went out on your own to do that, and what was, I think what I read about you is you're the wave of the future. How do you live up to something like that, and how do you describe...
I'm just happy I'm future something.
What is the wave?
I don't know. It's magazine. It's called Hospitality Design Magazine, and they pick each year sort of the designer of the year that they think are established enough, but think apparently I'm supposed to bring some trends to the future.
Some trends. And with your trends, do you use different kinds of materials? Because I
go mostly natural.
You still natural.
I
It's
like that.
steel, wood.
Steel, wood, yeah, absolutely, and
Well,
concrete and just
I watched
organic
Red
material.
O go up.
Okay.
What street is it on?
Melrose.
Melrose. I drove by it from the time they demolished what was there
Right.
to the time, little by little, and I kept looking behind the barricade,
Yeah.
and my gosh, when the barricade came down, I went, that looks like the bird's nest in Shanghai.
Oh, really?
Oh, I was like crazy about it. I thought it was so beautiful. This is a nighttime picture of it,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Tell us a little bit about all this.
Well, it's I designed it when I came back from Mexico. I was obviously inspired by the beaches of Mexico. That's why the palm tree kind of sticks through and kind of cuts the building in half. You don't see it in that picture, but
Do we see it here?
No.
We don't see it.
But the whole idea of this steel facade, it's kind of like a present from Mexico to LA, and like you would wrap a present like this and give it to somebody. So it's a steel ribbon, and it's kind of beautiful how the sun and shadows reflect on the inside patio through this facade.
It's so beautiful.
Oh, thank
And as a gift from Mexico coming back, it's Mexican cuisine.
It is, absolutely, yeah.
Did you work with the chef?
No, but it was a Mexican cuisine, and then they hired this amazing chef, Rick Bayless.
First they started as a Mexican cuisine, then they hired Rick?
Well, he's a Mexican
I know,
chef,
but I
yeah.
mean, is that when they hired him after they already started building the building?
Yeah.
This is the interior, this is
the
a
bar, yeah.
It's fantastic. And I was so happy when I went to have dinner there. I knew the maitre d' and I knew some of the waiters because
good.
they'd all been around town.
Good.
I didn't get Rick Bayless, whom I would love to have on the show too. Here's a lounge, which
Yes.
this is very trendy, right? Lounges.
Well, this was kind of designed as you can come there in the afternoon and sit at the bar, and there's like a little day bed there, have a drink, and then you have dinner either inside or outside, and then you walk through this tequila tunnel to have maybe a little bit of dessert or a little drink after dinner in this tequila lounge. And that's
Is
like
this
more,
the tequila lounge?
This is the tequila lounge. This a little bit more dark. You can stay until 1 or 2 in the morning and, you know, sip on some margaritas.
I'm going to take us through the tequila lounge because that is fantastic. It's this kind of curvy passageway, and the walls are all glass with every kind of tequila.
Yes.
Did you choose some of those tequilas? Did you
No,
bring
no.
some back? How did
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. But believe me, I tried a few different ones when I was living in Mexico.
What about the kitchen in some place like this? Do you have anything to do with that?
No, I don't. They
No,
hire
so-
a kitchen designer, and I believe a friend of mine, Joan Quinn, who's done a lot of kitchens for us, did the kitchen design.
So what's next on the agenda?
I have about, I don't know, 15 projects that I'm
Are they all
working on.
restaurants?
Restaurants and hotels.
And are they in the LA area?
LA and New York, yes.
Can we have any kind of insight into what they might be?
Well, I have this one little hotel on Sunset Boulevard across the street from Chateau Marmont, which is one of my favorite hangouts. So I think I only want to design places that I want to go to.
That you'll go to. But you have another Red O coming in.
Santa Monica.
Will it be the same kind of design so that it's a duplicate?
You know, it's similar, but I think in that case, where this is a steel ribbon facade, we're going to do that with ivies and greenery on the attached on the existing building.
So what happens when you do it with greenery? Do you have to wait till it all grows?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
You can't start it before, can you?
I should call him tomorrow.
She's calling him to find out if the greenery will grow. We'll be right back with Lisa Wolpe. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. I'm here with actress, director, educator, playwright, and producer Lisa Wolpe. In 1993, Lisa co-founded and became artistic director of the LA Women's Shakespeare Company, an award-winning, all-female, multicultural theater company. Lisa grew up in Santa Rosa and graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Theater from the University of California, San Diego, and she has an MFA from Goddard College in Vermont. I guess, Lisa, the thing to say is, how did you get interested in Shakespeare? First question.
Well, there's a lot of great teachers who led me down the path. I met Kristen Linklater when I was 19 and Tina Packer, and those two women really blew my mind. Kristen Linklater is the source of all the American emotional Shakespeare that you hear. She's the one who is famous for freeing the natural voice. And Tina Packer was with the Royal Shakespeare Company and studied with John Barton. And then when she became sort of an eminent young woman, rather than become an RSC leading lady, she decided to revolutionize Shakespeare, come to America, engage Kristen to be her director of training, and she got a few other fabulous people together, and they started this group called Shakespeare and Company, which is in the Berkshires.
Oh, in the East Coast.
In Western Massachusetts, in the Berkshires, and it's a beautiful piece of property, and they've, reached millions and millions of people since then. But when I met her, it was only 2 years old. And I just fell in love with her and with the work, and when I was 19, I started going there to train.
Oh, you were just new. So did you fall in love with Shakespeare right away? In college, or just through them?
No, I fell in love with it. I loved it in college. I started to taste it, but I didn't have the visceral engagement until I saw how they unpacked it.
But they didn't have a only women's group, did they?
No,
it was Shakespeare.
In fact, most of the Shakespeare roles go to men. So
that's why
it's for the women.
I know, that's why it's so interesting what you founded.
Yeah, well, Kristen was talking about an all-female company. We'd worked together for about 10 years, and she wanted to start the Company of Women with Carol Gilligan, who was an educator at Harvard, who was the first woman to really revolutionize child psychology and feature how little girls grow up, as opposed to how little boys grow up. So she was responsible for liberating the internal terrain of young girls, and Kristen was liberating the voice of professional actors. So those two practices came together, and they started a company together.
Well, when you went back and you studied with them, you were very young. You were acting.
Right, I was acting.
You were
I was
acting
directing
those roles. Were you directing as well at that point?
I was. My mentor was Alan Schneider, who was a fantastic director who passed away when I was about 23. But he was my mentor.
Oh, right. Oh.
And he started the regional theater movement in this country. He directed every Albee, Pinter, Beckett, and play in this country, and he taught me how to direct. So I knew that even now, I think female directors are 6% of the workforce.
But it's hard. Where do you learn to direct? The AFI, Women's Directing, they have a program. But where else do women go to learn to direct? College?
You have to be a maverick. You have to step out and say, I have a vision, I have the strength, I can compete, and I'm going to work harder than the boys. Because, really, most of the money goes to the boys.
But besides that, you acted in these roles. You did 21 roles.
Yeah.
So you had the luxury of knowing how to direct yourself or be directed in those roles, no?
Well, I created my company, and I directed myself in the leading roles for 15 years. So I directed myself as Romeo, as Iago, as Angelo. I've never not succeeded in directing myself, partly because I'm stubborn and I like to have my own way, and acting is frightening. And somehow if you're your own director, you're never intimidated. I mean, my feeling is,
I would think
number one, I don't scare myself.
Right.
I scare other people.
Yeah.
Never scare myself. I know what I need from the play. And because I'm directing the whole play, I know what the function of the character is. A lot of actors, they only look at their piece of it.
Right, I see.
But I know what the whole play does, so I know what my function is.
Right.
So I sort of kind of know what I'm supposed to do.
Did you go to London to research or to work?
I have been to London to work. I love London. I've seen fantastic theater in London. And when I was 20, I went there for a whole summer and stayed by myself and just saw theater every day.
Would that be the genesis of Shakespeare? I mean, is that where you should go to learn
I don't think you should
Shakespeare?
necessarily go to England to learn Shakespeare.
Because it sounds like the Berkshires had a lot of information.
And they still do. It's their 27th year. What I like about Shakespeare and Company, where all actors can go train, because that's how they make money, is training actors, is that they really have a cross-training system in place. If the movement teacher doesn't get you, the voice teacher will. If the voice teacher doesn't get you, the text teacher will. So either they'll send you out in nature or they'll teach you rhetoric. They really have a lot of masterful faculties, either in clown or in rhetoric or in text.
Really? So it's an intense study.
It's an intensive conservatory style that goes as deep as the professional community can bear.
Oh, it sounds great.
Yeah.
Do you get people from there to come to your company?
All the time.
Oh, you do? So it's kind of like a feeder thing in a way.
It is a feeder thing, because here on the West Coast, there's not that many in-depth Shakespeare training programs available.
I know.
And so I'm a go-to person for that. So I coach a lot of celebrities, but I also coach the kids who come from the East Coast that are coming out of college, have maybe done an intensive with Shakespeare and Company, and then they come out here for their film and TV careers, but their hearts are really in Shakespeare. They like to do the Olympics of theater.
Because it's so tough, though.
Yeah, it gives you some real stretch and scope. I mean, TV doesn't necessarily, at least in the audition process for the young actor, you usually get a couple of lines to work on. But if you're playing Ophelia or Hamlet, you get 600 lines to work on.
I see. When you were in Santa Rosa, were you hooked on acting?
No, I wasn't. I was... I did my first acting in Santa Rosa.
You did?
I thought it was amazing, yeah.
Were there theaters? I mean, like...
It's not so much there were theaters. I was 16. I'd done everything else there was to do in high school. I was in the volleyball team and the student court and the underground paper and the editor of the school paper. I just, there's nothing left to do. And then I tried acting, and wow, my director really gave me a break. And there's a play called The Visit, which is about the richest woman in the world, and she has 2 trained black leopards and 2 blind boys that serve her, and she's just a diva. And I played that role, and I thought, this is exciting. And then my director gave me an improv. He said, you can be a black leopard.
Whatever you want.
And then I thought, oh, this is fun, But I've always been a writer. I've preferred writing. I'm actually very shy.
Ooh.
But there's something about the families that the theater communities make that is very, very... It's like a tribe of people who always understand you wherever you go.
They say that, and you have a group at the Women's Shakespeare.
We do. Most of the people come back year after year.
LA?
LA Women's Shakespeare Company.
Okay. Now, only women.
For 17 years, until this summer. And now we've got boys in the troupe for the first time.
You're kidding.
No, we have boys all over the place.
Well, tell us why you founded it. Why did you think women could play these roles? Was it something that you were researching, or was it something that you thought you could direct women to be masculine? How did it happen?
Well, first of all, there's my love of the work.
Okay, that's...
And then there's the lack of opportunities. So there's that beginning. But then there is, for the very intelligent actor, and since Shakespeare's original company was all male, there's a lot of fun.
Oh, it's just the opposite.
Yeah, it's the opposite. It's not that I'm inventing the form. It's just that had I done this form when Shakespeare was alive, I would have been killed for trying it, because women were not allowed to express themselves.
I forgot that. That's right. That was the opposite way. So
yeah,
they had to be
thing
feminine.
Is actually having men playing men and women playing women.
Right.
That's the odd thing.
That's the odd thing.
Because that's so straight, and it's really meant to be taking a walk in somebody else's moccasins. It's meant to be a transformative experience for the actor and the audience.
And that's why you wanted to do it?
I wanted to do it because I'm strong and direct, and I needed material to really kind of stretch me.
So you were doing it for yourself more
I'm doing
than
it for myself,
starting
but then I also have a half-black brother, and I'm also a gay woman, and I have issues about everybody being shut out of the entertainment process who isn't an anorexic white girl. So
yeah, but the thing with someone like you is you're an actor, there's roles for you to come into, you can't feel discriminated against, and yet you're saying that, you're not white, blonde, blue-eyed, you are blue-eyed.
Well, I guess so.
I
guess just as a
strong
strong woman coming up, I would rather be a social activist than a bimbo on a TV series.
Okay, let's
and
say it that way.
There's probably a better bimbo somewhere else.
Right.
It doesn't suit me anyway. I can play a judge or a senator or a mom or a neighbor, but
and have
to
you?
generate something that has changed. I have. I've played a go-go dancer. I've played a neighbor.
So
I've played
you can play
dominatrix. I could play anything, but listen, I'm the only woman on the planet who's played all these male roles right now.
I know. I pulled up on the internet you in a uniform.
Oh, Iago, yeah. Me playing Iago.
Iago. But when you're doing this, you have to explore these gender markers, you say,
Yeah.
and behavior and different things, male, that you then transform or transfer, and the
Yes.
woman has to look at the woman actress has to look at all those different ways.
I think the woman has to look at the female roles differently, because we women, we know the tricks that women play.
Right.
And so in a love scene or a power scene, just for us to look up from under our eyelashes and be coquettish is a transparent ploy. You have to actually be a little bit stronger to have
So you have
integrity
to
as a
look
woman in
into-
a woman's company.
So you
the
have to-
women are saying, you know, that's a silly ploy. You need to come at me with something more. And as a man, just to kind of square off and be direct and take your space is
Yeah,
playable.
let's see, what do? You have to
So
know
as a man, I'd
posture.
say, yes, how is your show going for you? And as a woman,
And
I'd
I'll
go,
go like-
is it all right if I just have a sip of my water? You know, and really break the angles of the
Right.
head and take up less space in the chair and apologize more. And maybe
But so you-
soften my voice and smile to make sure I'm likable. You know, there's a whole lot of tricks to the
So
cultural
that's how you
expectation.
direct. That's how you'd be directing.
Definitely
You
looking
have
at
to,
the lines of the body. Wrists, you know, broken wrists don't work. You know, maybe a gay man might break his wrist, but
but not
otherwise
for these
not.
roles. It's Shakespeare roles.
No, not for
Hamlet,
not for Hamlet.
Macbeth.
Right, and they're all different. So right now I'm directing a Macbeth where a man's playing Macbeth and a man's playing Lady Macbeth. But the
Oh,
man
is
who's-
that right?
Yeah. But the man who's playing Lady Macbeth is also playing Satan and
Oh, so he's
a
playing a-
macho guard, so he's playing three things. But in the inhabiting of the feminine, that's where he's going to have his most difficult journey, because it's the least powerful character. Whereas for a woman playing Lady Macbeth, you'd
yeah.
say, oh, that's the strongest female character in the canon.
You said you had boys running around, so you have males in the cast now.
This summer we do. This summer we have everything. We have girls playing men, we have men playing boys, we have boys playing women, we have women playing girls. I mean, we have every combination of gender-bent theater. John
How do you
Acorn-
decide?
Well, one is a comedy. We're doing Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest.
Uh-huh.
And I thought I'd like to play Jack.
Okay.
And so then I invited my friend John Acorn to play Lady Bracknell.
Oh,
That's a
she
fabulous
loves tea,
drag role.
right?
You know what I mean? Right?
She loves tea,
Right.
doesn't she?
Yes, the tea drinker. So, and then I invited my friend Cynthia Beckert to play Algernon. So we have two women
Oh,
playing
right.
men.
And he's like very,
Yes, he's a silly boy.
he's a silly boy.
And so that's gender bent for the amusement factor, which is sort of gender bending light, if you will.
But you know these people, so you know you can put them in those roles, right?
Well, yeah, Cynthia Beckert has done 5 shows with us.
Yeah.
And John Acorn is a commedia master. And so just as a well-known actor, anybody would like to see him try something difficult like playing a woman.
Where's the theater?
The theater's at the corner of Lincoln and Wilshire in Santa Monica. It's called the Miles Playhouse.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And but you're rehearsing downtown, but you
Well,
play
we were
at the
very
Miles.
fortunate that the Shakespeare Center, which is
Oh,
run
yeah.
by Ben Donnenberg and Chris Anthony,
On 6th Street, is
it's
it?
on First Street.
First Street?
But
First
they've got
Street,
a beautiful
right.
big space, and they're kind enough to give it to us for the whole month for nothing.
Oh, that's
so we're
great.
rehearsing there.
That's a wonderful space.
Very nice.
Yeah, we drive by it to go to
yeah.
Disney Hall.
right, in the middle of downtown.
Right.
And then, and we got a grant from the city of Santa Monica, which is nice, a small grant to have an intern program. So we have 12 college and high school girls playing Shakespeare with us. And then, you know, we were able to rent the Santa Monica Playhouse, which is only 10 blocks from where I live, which is great.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you're all over the city, and people know you, the grant givers know you. And
Well,
you're
I've raised
helping.
over $1 million for the arts for
That's-
my company in the last 17 years,
That's
which isn't much
fantastic.
compared to most people.
No, but you're
for a
doing it
very
alone.
Small, exactly, for a little grassroots company. It's you know what's interesting? We've been on TV so much. We were on
Oh,
CNN
yes,
twice.
Right.
PBS, ABC News, NBC News called me a local hero. I mean, during the last decade when feminism was really strong, everybody was interested in all-female Shakespeare. So we had this unusual launch where people would call me from Hong Kong and ask about the company, but we're just a 99-seat theater here in
right.
LA.
Yeah.
But I think now, you know, Bill Rausch, who now runs the Oregon Shakespeare Festival,
yes,
called me
and-
over to his house. He said, "You've made a real difference."
Yeah,
and
I
if
think
you go
that's
to
right.
OSF now, they have a lot of women of color playing kings and queens and princes and Virginia Woolf and any other thing. So
Exactly.
the difference is, when I was a kid, that wasn't true. People of color didn't get cast at all in major roles like this, and they never got cast as men.
So here we are.
So here we are. It's different now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
It's really been enlightening. Thank you very much. And keep writing, JAQUINN1 @AOL.com, the email, and 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles, 90017. We'll see you next time on the Joan Quinn Profiles.